Ladies and gentlemen, you probably heard this here first. Democrats want a second special counsel. I'm not joking, this is the most absurd thing you've heard in your life. A second special counsel. So the first special counsel on page 17, which which John Durham has almost certainly read a million times over. Page 17, I talked about that about a couple of hours ago on this channel. Page 17 of the Mueller report says, second, while the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Vlad government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, the evidence was not sufficient to support criminal charges. Among other things, the evidence was not sufficient to charge any campaign official as an unregistered agent of the Vlad government and other Vlad principal. And our evidence about the June 9, 2016 meeting, the Trump Jr. meeting, was not sufficient to charge a criminal campaign finance violation. Oh, I'm sorry, no. The June 9, 2016 meeting and the release of hacked materials, DNC emails, was not sufficient to charge a criminal campaign finance violation. Further, the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with representatives of the Vlad government to interfere in 2016. They want a second special counsel, so I'm not going to give you this renowned scholar's name, but there's a renowned scholar who's a liberal Democrat, very passionate liberal Democrat, and he wrote, pressured on both sides, A.G. Merrick Garland can ensure that any decision DOJ makes about prosecuting Trump isn't seen as tainted by political fear or favor. How? By handing the matter to a special counsel, as DOJ's regulation had provided since 1999. They already had a special counsel at the Trump. The district attorney in New York can't find anything. That's the problem. So this legal scholar, who is renowned, can't come to terms, can't cope with the fact that Trump didn't commit any crimes. But you could say easily, Madam Secretary did, with top secret intelligence on servers. I would love for this legal scholar or anyone to explain how top secret intelligence was transferred or migrated from secure government locations within the United States government onto servers for 4 years. How did they transfer the classified data? That alone is a crime. But then Comey said there was no intent. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We're almost at 200,000 subscribers. I read from the actual government documents, okay? And that's why this channel is successful. I read from the government documents, page 17. The evidence was not sufficient to charge Trump, so they literally purchased their own myth. They purchased their own myth. A Steele dossier that was purchased. An Alpha Bank story that was literally, like, they hired people to obtain information on Trump. Surveillance after also he was president. And every investigation into Trump has been highly partisan. The epitome of partisanship. There has been no apolitical investigation into Trump. And yet they still can't find anything. The Southern District of New York, they're all lifelong liberal Democrats. They're all going after Trump. They can't find anything. He didn't inflate his businesses or his real estate valuations. Deutsche Bank wasn't duped by Trump. And if there was an issue with him obtaining loans, the banks would have notified the state government or federal government. So, and Tokyo and the U.S. and New York are the two of the most expensive cities in the world. New York, you're not going to a Southern District attorney in New York is not going to know more about real estate values than Trump. Okay, who grew up with multi-million dollar real estate valuations, or he grew up, he knew exactly with his father what these buildings were worth, or what the negotiated valuation between the bank and the owner of those buildings, how that would take place. Okay, so you're not going to get him on elevating or inflating the value of his real estate, okay? Because if you're selling a house, you'll do that yourself, okay? You'll say, hey, you know what? It's worth a lot more than you think. Then you're not going to get him on Stormy. That didn't happen. You didn't get him on his tax returns. That didn't happen. You didn't get him on the Mueller report. That didn't happen. So they're literally calling in the Washington Post, and then I think there's a Guardian article also. These people, like, okay, liberal Democrats, the morally superior, wonderful liberal Democrats, are obsessed with Trump. They can't possibly fathom the notion that he's less corrupt than Clinton or mashed potato brains Biden, our president. Okay, he didn't have... Okay, where's the special counsel? We have John Durham finding out that, oh, by the way, the whole thing was a setup. Indicted 3 people already, and the indictments are going to keep coming. There was zero reason to investigate Trump. There was no evidence that he had worked with a foreign adversary. The evidence was literally fabricated, and the Steele dossier was purchased. Literally purchased. They hired people to compile a dossier, then they purchased the dossier and utilized it to intimidate Trump. You could have done the same thing with President Obama when he wanted a Russian reset. You could have said, Bush could have said, our intel says that President Obama's, or candidate Obama's at that point, quest to reset, a Russian reset. Well, that's exactly what the Kremlin wants. You could do the same thing. This is like the most mindless, absurd, like easily deciphered propaganda spin, partisan, these partisan investigations into Trump. They're miscarriages of justice, because you are trying to take someone out of contention. That's all they're doing. He didn't commit a crime. Not one crime Trump committed. Not one. You could list the crimes that Hunter or Madam Secretary or others committed. Okay? Bill Clinton did commit perjury. That's why he was impeached. Trump wasn't impeached on a crime. No, President Zelensky himself, who spoke today, said, oh, by the way, I was never pressured. He stated categorically he was never pressured by Trump. They impeached him anyway. Now, January. And they say, well, they impeached him for January. He said he used the word peaceful, and he was not part. The FBI cleared him immediately. There were agents there. Gee, that's interesting, according to testimony from Ted Cruz and a representative from the Bureau. So you're not going to find anything on Trump because he didn't commit a crime. He didn't have servers with top secret intel. He didn't have a laptop like Hunter with incriminating pay-to-play emails, giving 10% to the big man, which is mashed potato brains. You're not going to find that morally superior liberal Democrat. Okay? You have to... The Democrats need James Comey to say, there was no intent. Trump doesn't get the luxury of James Comey saying there was no intent. Because A, he didn't commit a crime, and B, if he had committed a crime, you better believe they would have indicted him. See, the difference is that with Democrats, the system, they will not get indicted, or a lot of times they won't. Now with the Durham probe, you have it's a different ballgame. And with Trump Republicans taking over the House and the Senate, different ballgame. You're going to get exactly the political climate you've created. Morally superior liberal Democrats. But with Clinton, there were crimes committed. You can ask Strzok and McCabe or Comey, but Comey said there was no intent. So there were crimes committed. Then you had the FBI director completely save you from, your political side. By the way, I want Clinton to be the nominee. I want a rematch between Clinton and Trump. This country has been through too much. Because that didn't happen again, or that didn't happen the right way the first time. We need a rematch so we can put these, exercise the demons and, put everything to rest. We need that rematch. And I will have told everybody that the rematch is taking place. Clinton versus Trump. God bless Madam Secretary. She needs to run again. Please, please. I mean, it's not difficult. I think she can surpass President Exhumed Body and become nominee. He's not running again anyway. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. They want a second special counsel because here's why. Because Merrick Garland, state prosecutors, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, none of these agencies, these individuals who were highly partisan, actually have anything on Trump to indict him. Don't you think they would have indicted Trump if they had something morally superior liberal Democrats? They have nothing. But if Clinton, for example, was treated like anyone else, she would have been indicted, without a shadow of a doubt. People have been indicted for infinitely less involving classified data. But Trump never had classified data, top secret intel. He never had any of these things. When Trump was in office, it was just, current and former U.S. officials say. It was always a source claiming this and that. It was never any servers with top secret intel or a lost laptop or anything else. Face it, wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats. You have nothing on Trump. The man's been investigated already with a special counsel, found nothing. The people who were indicted on process crimes, not because they worked alongside you-know-who. Conversely, if donations from very sketchy or corrupt organizations into a foundation or corrupt individuals or a laptop that's lost by Hunter, if those are actually investigated or servers with top secret intel, you'd get it. You'd get indictments. But the system at this point right now, didn't work that way because justice is not, the scales aren't balanced evenly. And everybody knows this. That's why that's why nobody trusts the media, because all of media is in the tank for the Democratic Party. That's changing in terms of justice with the Durham probe special counsel. It really is. So you're probably going to get people very high up that are indicted. Give me your thoughts below. Be here in 2 hours. Thank you, everybody.